Run it, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year.
Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Rohan Biju, and today we're going to take a look at the Samsung Odyssey OLED G8. So we did take a look at the Neo G8 a couple days back, and it was a really good monitor with a really good display, a 4K 240Hz display, and it was really good. Well, today we're going to take a look at an OLED version of that, which surprisingly is so much different from it. So the OLED G8 comes at $1,500, which is a steep price. But right now you have a really good deal for $900, which is actually $100 cheaper than the Neo G8, and in my opinion is a much better value. So we're going to compare the Neo G8 and the OLED, and we're going to cover a lot about the OLED G8. So first we're going to do an unboxing, then we're going to show you how to set it up, then we're going to do the physical specs, and then the display specs, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts and my final score for the Samsung Odyssey OLED G8. So before we begin, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already to watch more future content like this. Like this video if you found this helpful, and comment any questions or concerns, and I'll try my best to answer them. So without further ado, let's go straight to the unboxing. You get the standard beige Samsung box, and let's pop the box open. First items we see are all accessories, and let's take them out. The first thing we see is the neck of the monitor, which is widely different from other Odyssey monitors I've reviewed so far. Then we have the base, which is just a rectangle and looks really unique. Then we can find a 100x100 VESA bracket, so you can mount the monitor to an arm if you choose so. Then we can find the power brick with the charging cable, and please make sure to hold on to this because this is a unique charging cable and charging brick for this specific monitor. Then we can find a mini to normal DisplayPort cable, which should suit all your needs for this monitor. Then we find a remote for the smart TV features, which is really cool, and we'll talk about this later. And then finally, we have the paperwork. Let's put all of these aside and pull out the monitor. The monitor is a bit heavy, but feels quite durable. You can immediately see the 1800R curve of the monitor and just see how thin the display itself is. Let's remove all the wrapping and let's start setting up the monitor. So first we take the base and the neck and line up the pins and screws together and join them. Then we screw them together, and then finally we place the neck of the monitor into the slot of the back of the monitor and then push them down until you hear a quiet click. Place the monitor upright, and now you're all set to start gaming. Also, it's worth noting what I'm going to use to test this monitor. So I'm going to use both a PC as well as a console. So for the PC side of things, I'm going to use a fresh PC with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060 and a 13th gen Intel Core i7-13700F, and also be running tests on my PS5 to give you the console aspects of things. So that was pretty much it for the unboxing and setup. Now let's talk about the physical specs. The design of the monitor is quite sleek with a full high quality plastic build, which definitely feels like a step up from the Neo G8. The neck and base of the monitor feels extremely solid, and there's minimal wobbling when using this monitor, which is amazing. The aesthetic of the monitor is quite minimal and can fit on pretty much any desk setup. Since the size of the base is smaller than usual, it won't take up as much desk space as you think and will actually add to it. And you can actually put stuff around the stand and on the stand since it's flat, and it really doesn't take up that much room. The overall design feels very much like an iMac, but actually better in so many ways. The monitor itself is incredibly thin when you look at it from the side, and you can definitely notice this. This can also be seen with the size of the bezels of the display itself. They are thinner than conventional monitors and really sell the whole minimalistic vibe. The screen on the front has Samsung's 1800R curve, and the screen has a glossy finish, which surprisingly doesn't attract reflections. The ergonomics of this monitor is pretty decent. You can increase the height by 4.7 inches or 12 centimeters. You can tilt it from -20 to 2.5 degrees, and you can't swivel this monitor, which means you can't make it vertical, and I really don't have a reason why you would want to make this vertical. It's an ultra wide monitor. The monitor also does support a 100x100 VESA mount, which you can use to hook up onto a monitor arm if you choose to do so. Awesome. So now let's talk about port options. We have one mini display port, 1.4, one micro HDMI port, two USB-C ports, and a standard power port. Port options are a bit unorthodox for a monitor, but I think they sacrifice using traditional DP and HDMI cables in favor of the thinness of the display, which I definitely get. And if you're liking the video so far, a sub to the channel would be appreciated. Also in the back left, we can also see that there is a joystick button for navigations to navigate your settings, which is definitely a step up from the arrow buttons we got in the Neo G8, and this feels more intuitive. On the neck of the monitor, we also have a much better utilization of a wire management system and works much better than a silicon strip. It's a cylindrical hole on the stand that guides all the wires through and works much better than expected. The monitor does have inbuilt speakers that are surprisingly really good if you don't have external speakers in your desk setup. It does have an all-around good sound quality, but does lack a little bass. But you're most likely going to use your own external desk speakers or just your headphones, and you're probably not going to rely on the monitor speaker by itself. But either way, here is a quick test of the speakers. Awesome. Now it's also worth noting that on the back we have an infinity core light ring, which in theory should make ambient lighting when using the display, but it's just not that bright enough. It's definitely brighter than the Neo G8 and you can definitely see it, but it's more like a gimmick and could be brighter. It also has a wasted core sync feature, which would have been really cool, but it fails to give a thorough experience. Usually it just blinks or stutters. It's really hard to understand how it adds to that ambient sense. If they could just make it a bit more smoother, it would really add to the experience as a whole. So imagine watching a movie and colors on the back change according to what you're seeing on the screen, and I think that's just really cool to have. Awesome, so that was pretty much it for the physical specs. So now let's talk about the display specs. The OLED G8 is a 34-inch display with a 3440 by 1440p resolution at a max refresh rate of 175 Hz at an aspect ratio of 21:9. This is by definition an ultra-wide monitor, and it uses quantum dot OLED panel technology as the name suggests, and it comes with a ton of amazing perks. The monitor's 109 ppi provides some rich visuals for you to enjoy. The response time for this monitor on paper is around 0.03 milliseconds, but it's around 0.1 milliseconds in reality, which is beyond amazing, and the monitor also has VRR support with both AMD FreeSync as well as G-Sync. From just looking at the monitor, you can notice that it has a slight curve, and this is Samsung's 1800R curve. This is much less aggressive than the 1000R curve the Neo G8 has, but in my opinion, it gets the job done very well. Games feel immersive as ever while not straining your eyes too much. Also, you'll almost never face any ghosting and get near perfect moving images, so gameplay will look sharp and there won't be any smearing. Awesome, so now let's just talk about the general picture quality. The OLED G8 has amazing black levels, black uniformity, and gray uniformity as you should expect from an OLED monitor. With the HDR Tru Black 400, you will get the closest true black image you'll ever see on a monitor, and pictures will truly pop. The reason for this is that each individual pixel on the display lights up instead of having a backlight, which just makes everything so much more crisper, and you have an almost infinite contrast ratio. Well, on paper it's 1,000,000:1, but it's almost infinite, and you can enjoy this in very visual games like The Last of Us Part 2 and so much more. The only main issue with this monitor in terms of picture quality is the brightness. True to how most OLEDs behave, this monitor is pretty bad at dealing with brightness. Using SDR, you get around 230 nits of brightness, and with HDR, you will get around 372 nits of brightness. These are not amazing numbers and are pretty subpar for the price of the monitor. Also, if you reduce the brightness, the image and color quality will decrease, leading to more grayish tones, which is not ideal. So if you leave it at full brightness and don't really mind having lower than standard brightness, this could be the monitor for you. The vertical and horizontal viewing angles for this monitor are amazing. Due to the OLED panel, you can bring a friend along and they will be able to see images with the same color richness and image quality as you. The color accuracy for this monitor was great right out of the box, and in my personal experience, I didn't feel like I needed to calibrate it to enjoy gameplay. If you're buying this monitor, the primary purpose is to enjoy the visuals of games, so you'll be turning on all the visual settings to the max, like ray tracing and so much more. The color is so vibrant and just enhances the experience even more. The monitor covers 99.4% of the DCI-P3 color space and 97.1% coverage of the Adobe RGB color space. This monitor is definitely not built for competitive gamers because of its ultra-wide display and 34-inch size, 175Hz refresh rate, and a 1440p display. If you are a pro gamer, you should opt for something smaller in size and go for a VA or IPS panel, which supports higher refresh rates to give you a more competitive edge in competitions. The deep darks in OLED can be a disadvantage in games because you might not be able to see enemies in dark areas of games. So as you saw in the unboxing, we did get a smart remote. Well, there is a big feature with this monitor, and that is its smart TV features. At first, I was skeptical on why you would need smart TV on a monitor that you would be connecting to a PC or a console, but I just don't know why. I just started using it much more, and it felt more intuitive to use. You have access to all your streaming services, live TV, and the internet, and so much more. With the addition of the speakers, this setup really shines as an entertainment device, so you can sit back and just watch a movie with the monitor alone. With the coursing light on the back, you also do get a tiny bit of ambient lighting based on what you have on screen, but it's just not as bright enough. The only major issue is that since movies don't have an ultra-wide resolution, you're also going to get a small screen towards the center. So you're going to have black bars on the right and left, and you're just going to have the movie in front unless you find a movie which somehow does have ultra-wide. Another important part about the Smart TV feature is the Game Hub, which has everything you need to make this monitor basically a standalone device for you to game on. So the Game Hub has everything you need for game streaming. So it has all the apps like Amazon Luna, Xbox Cloud Services. It has so much more like GeForce Now. So you can basically just have this monitor, have a controller, you have a speaker in the monitor, and basically just have this as your own gaming device, and you don't really need anything else. But I doubt a lot of people are going to do that. They're just going to use their PC or a console if you're going to buy this monitor. But if you don't really have those options, this monitor is probably the next best thing. Awesome, so now I'm going to touch a little bit on productivity because this monitor is actually really good for it. It doesn't have an aggressive curve that makes using it a bit annoying, and the screen clarity is beyond perfect for text clarity. And you'll also be able to read documents, send emails, and do all your daily tasks really efficiently. Also, with the high real estate to multitask, this is quite an amazing monitor for work and productivity. The only major problem is fringing on the text, which means that you will get a really weird red and green border effect, but that's barely noticeable in my own experience. Awesome, so that was pretty much it for display specs. So now let's talk about my final thoughts and my final score for the OLED G8. As a casual gamer, I thoroughly enjoyed the monitor and what it offered visually. Games were stunning, images were stunning, and experienced rich colors. The smart TV system in the monitor also was surprisingly amazing and really elevated the experience as a standalone entertainment device. The addition of the speakers was also a great touch, and also for the price of $900, this is a really good value for your money. You get an OLED display, 1440p resolution, a 175Hz refresh rate, which is beyond amazing as a casual gamer. And overall, I just think for $900, it's so much better in terms of value than the Neo G8. So right now, this has to take my #1 spot for the best display I've reviewed on the channel so far. So I'm going to give a score for the Samsung Odyssey OLED G8 a 95 out of 100. It does everything amazing in terms of display quality, great contrast ratio, great black levels, and it's just a really good experience overall. And there are only minor problems in my experience, especially with fringing. Ambient light on the back is not that great, but it's not going to hinder your overall experience. So I hope you found this video helpful. As always, I've left links in the description if you want to go purchase the Samsung Odyssey OLED G8. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to watch more future content like this. Like this video if you found this helpful, and comment any questions or concerns, and I'll try my best to answer them. So thank you guys for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
It's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my